My name is Aditi Mishra, and I'm 20 years old. I live in Antwerp, Belgium, and I've lived there for most of my life. And currently, I'm studying in the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, in the United States. I was born in India, and so I've always had this international background when we moved to Belgium, and I've always studied in an English institution, a school. My friends have all been American and British, so I was always very intrigued by their culture, and I always wanted to go to America and experience it for myself. And I went there for holiday, and I just thought it was such an open and such a nice place. So I think just the atmosphere in America just turned me towards an American education, and just I researched so many American universities, and Michigan just turned out to be such a great program, and I don't regret it anymore. I mean, I've been there for 2 years, and it's just been a lot of fun. Yeah. When I first started thinking about going to universities, it was a very daunting process, obviously. Going to an international school, people were going everywhere. Some people were going to study in the UK, some were going to go to the US. So it was very confusing for me to decide where I wanted to go. And so when I started thinking about it, I looked at as many universities as I could, and I actually ended up applying to about 20 universities within the US and the UK. So it was a very long process, but definitely one of the processes that sort of I found out who I was, and I found out what I wanted to do through it. And over the 2 years, I looked at programs, I looked at universities that I hadn't heard of, and found programs in those universities that I hadn't heard of. Initially I started out wanting to go to an Ivy League, so it was Columbia, and then I looked at University of Michigan, and I found a program in that university that wasn't even there in the Ivy League. So it was a very long process, but I worked towards it sort of. I was very organized throughout it, and that's actually one of the reasons why I got accepted to most of the universities that I applied to, because I went step by step through the application procedure, the recommendation procedure, and the application procedure. So it was very different. Having gone to a British school, we were always taught to be very elaborate and the opposite of concise, which is exactly what they ask for in the SATs. And the SAT is how much can you say in the least amount of words possible, whereas in the British system it was completely the opposite. How much more can you say? Can you write 10 pages? So it was very different for me having to write an SAT essay, and I remember getting them checked by some of my English professors, and they didn't even think they were nice, but I ended up doing well in it. And SATs, of course, I started studying 2 years in advance because I thought the sooner the better. I gave one a year before I was going to apply to colleges, and then I gave two more. And they increased in that order. So yeah, it was a long process, that too. Yeah. I think primarily I looked at the courses. I just went through program details. I went through the professors. I checked out the professors on Google and saw what they were good at, what they had accomplished, and I saw in Michigan, for instance, I'm doing a course called Atmospheric, Oceanic, and Space Sciences, and it's such a different course. I think in all of the US, only 60 universities have it, as opposed to the generic, environmental sciences or environmental engineering. And I really wanted to steer clear of both of those options. So I saw this course and I was like, wow, I didn't even know that existed. And so that was one of the major criteria, is what kind of a course it was, what the description was. And then I looked at the professors, and half of them were, working at NASA while studying. So I mean, it was great. I knew that was the place that I wanted to be, and also it was small, so definitely the size of the school mattered to me, because I'm a person who thrives in a class of 20 people as opposed to 200, and I saw that my department only had 40 people in one year group, and I thought, well, this is unique in America, and at the same time, it's exactly what I want to do. When you join an American university, you have to go through the orientation procedure. Obviously, everybody goes through it, even the Americans. And I remember the first day that I was there, it was completely overwhelming. I mean, the university was, I don't even know how many kilometers. I mean, now I know that it was 3 kilometers long, just one campus, and they had two of those campuses. So it was very daunting for me to have been there at first and just seeing how many people there were. And at first it was just the orientation people, and little did I know that I'd be coming back, in 2 or 3 weeks, and the university was just going to be full of people. So it was very intimidating at first. I think intimidating is the word. And I was lost in the beginning. I didn't know where to go, or who to ask for help, and the classes were just huge in the first year. It was 200 people. Getting help from professors, I mean, was a sort of deal in itself. You had to schedule time, then take office hours and stuff, so it was very intimidating. But I think in a way it was great because I think America, the world is such a big place, and everywhere you're going to work is going to be huge amounts of people, and just you have to find your way through it. So I think America really prepares you for that. And after a year at Michigan, I know exactly where to go. I know that it's okay to ask a question with 200 people in the class, although my classes aren't that big anymore. And I also, it's you have to do everything by yourself, and you have to be very proactive and take the initiative. And I didn't know that the first year, but now I do, and I think it's such a great thing. So now that I'm going to start applying for jobs, I think that I'll have a step ahead from people from other countries and other universities because I know what I have to do. I don't need help from other people, and even if I do need help, I know exactly where I have to go, and everything is very independent. I'm independent. I know what I'm doing. I figured out how to ask for help, and it's not so scary being in a crowd of 40,000 people as opposed to, going to a small college and then going out in the world and just getting overwhelmed then. So I'm happy that the procedure was over with at the beginning. Definitely. I mean, I think the people that I met at orientation are still very good friends of mine, although we, obviously I hang out more with the people I lived with in the first year than with the international students, but we still talk, and it's funny because we all can see the changes in ourselves. We were not so eloquent before we went there, but now we can all talk, a lot more fluently. We're much more confident. I think maybe it's the American confidence that's sort of coming out, being able to talk in a crowd and be comfortable about it. And so I think we're all different people, and it's funny to get together after a year and just talk about the changes that have occurred in almost every aspect of our life. Yeah. Now I feel like I've sort of gone back to the junior year of high school all over again because everything is open to me. It's I can either work in a place that I like, or I can do an internship. So again, it's a very daunting procedure, but I think it's great to have to go through, find out what I want to do exactly with my life. It's another kind of satisfaction that you get knowing that, it's towards the end and now you can really do what you started out to do, I'm going to start looking for internships either in Europe or in America. Having that international background, I think that I will be preferred in most places, and so it's great that I can choose to work wherever I want to work in the world, and obviously graduate schools as well. So it's going to be a tough time, but I think it's going to be enjoyable at the same time.